Audio Jungle.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're logging in from. You have found the How to Start a Laundromat webinar from CLA, the Laundry Association. Uh, Terrific to have you with us. I see a lot of you starting to populate here and saying hello in the chat. We're going to get started just a minute or two. Um, but let's see, who do we have here? We have Angelica. We've got Keandra. Hello, Michelle, Courtney, California, Maryland, Tawanda, Courtney from Atlanta. We're having a meeting in Atlanta this week. I'll tell you about that. Courtney, hope to see you. NYC, we'll be there in a couple of weeks. Texas, Israel, you win from the furthest away.
Furthest away for
Yeah,
sure.
I love it. Metro Detroit, Nicolette from Rockland County, New York, Eric from LA. Howdy, y'all from Texas. Thanks, Mike. Stacy from Chicago. Well,
Right, Stacy, a little local talent.
That's
Thank you.
that's what we're looking for. Boston, Phoenix. Hey, Catherine. We know you. Okay, so continue to say hi in the chat, but we'll go ahead and get started here. As I said, you found the How to Start a Laundromat webinar from CLA. We do this every month as a service to all of you that are looking to get into the industry as well as to our industry, with the idea that the more information you have, the better decisions you're going to make, and the better it is for the health of our industry overall. Let me kick off with a little bit of housekeeping. The most popular question we have is this being recorded? Yes, we are recording, and we will share it with you. We've got your contact information, obviously, so we'll be sharing that out in the wake of the program here. So take all the notes you want, but just know that you're going to be getting a copy of everything here that we have to share. Another common question is, what is the other common question I was thinking of? Oh, for questions and answers, right? So some of you have been using the chat. Even better yet, there is a Q&A box that is on your toolbar in Zoom. If you use that, that's even easier for us to keep track of your questions. And me and our special guest that I'll introduce in just a moment, we have some prepared material that we're going to share, but more importantly, we want to make sure that we're getting to all of your questions along the way about getting into the laundry business. So let me begin with who the heck are we, and what is our game plan? Let's see here. Make sure you're seeing the slide. Okay. So we are here on behalf of CLA, which is the Industry Trade Association for the industry. So we're a nonprofit organization that is committed to representing the best interest of the industry, but also engaged in networking, in education, in advocacy, and providing you with the business solutions that you need to be successful in the industry. We've been doing this now for 65 years, so I'd like to think we know a thing or two about the business at this stage. And it's a membership organization, right? So we've got thousands of stores that we represent through our membership that gives us some strength in numbers and a very broad base of knowledge about the industry that we're always very anxious to share. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we bring to the table and some of the reasons why you may want to become a member as we go through the presentation a bit further. These two gentlemen,
There I am.
there we are. We are here to guide you through the process. My name is Brian Wallace. I serve as president and CEO of the association, and it's always my pleasure to take care of this webinar every month and meet so many new people that are interested in getting into the industry. My history is just a lifetime in the laundromat business. really through the association. So I'm more of an academic. I've been engaged in the business here at CLA for 34 years, and I've seen a thing or two, pounded some pavement, visited a couple thousand stores, eat, sleep, and breathe the laundromat business. And so I'm always really honored to be able to share out what we've learned collectively about the business. And what we like to do with these webinars each month is call on one of our volunteer leaders who is not an academic, who's a practical in the field operator to share their experience. And so today we have Neal Shapiro with us. And Neal, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about who you are and what brought you to the laundry business and maybe some of your bona fides to have the conversation today.
All right, very good. Well, first of all, thank you for asking me. I always enjoy doing these. I am Neal Shapiro. I'm a laundromat owner. I also own a laundry pickup and delivery service. Our store and our facilities are in Chicago. My wife and I come from different careers. I owned manufacturing companies, and my wife is an educator. She had a preschool business for over 30 years. Um, we have three children. Our middle child, Michael, is a disabled adult. And about 12 years ago, Kate had the idea that we should buy a laundromat, and Michael would be able to go there on a regular basis and work there. We've trained him how to do a lot of things at the store, and it's really been life-changing for Michael. He loves going there. He loves being with the customers. It's really been a wonderful experience for him. And concurrently, it's really been a wonderful experience for Kate and myself. Coming from entirely different businesses, we had a lot to learn. Brian has undoubtedly forgotten more about the laundromat business than I will ever know.
We'll find out in the next 90 minutes.
But CLA was actually the first phone call I made when Kate floated this idea. I said, well, okay, I don't really know anything about laundromats, but I'm sure there's an association. And sure enough, the association was here in the Chicago area. So Brian and I met, and 12 years later, here I am.
Here we are.
Yeah. I am on the board of directors of CLA. I'm currently the chairman-elect, and will be the chairman of the board in 2027. So again, glad to be here. Looking forward to answering any questions we can. I think each of you has made a good decision to come here and listen. You can certainly learn a lot by talking with other people in the industry. And frankly, one of the things I like about this industry is that we are all very willing to cooperate and network. And, we want to see you be successful. We don't want any bad laundromats. We want good laundromats. And that starts with really understanding the business from the get-go. So good morning.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here, Neal. Very well said. And again, you're just a terrific resource for our folks. So just to recap a little bit of that housekeeping, number one, yes, we are recording the presentation. And yes, you are very much encouraged to ask questions. You can say hi in the chat. Andrew from our team and Catherine from our team will be keeping an eye there and maybe adding some links and some other resources that you may need to move forward with this opportunity. The questions and answer box is even better if you want to start to populate that with your questions. And so we'll sort of share a little content. I'll keep an eye on the questions. We'll interject. We'll stop and take questions and answers and kind of work our way through the process. Yes, thank you, Andrew. You've got everybody's back. Okay. All right. So let's sort of move on to the next stage here. And see about, I knew I was going to goof that up. So let me get to the slideshow. I'm on the wrong view. Please hold. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So what we're looking to do here is a couple of things. We're not here to recruit you into the business. If you spend any time on the socials, I'm going to kind of start with a disclaimer. Our industry is very popular on social media, TikTok, etc. So let me just say from the top, we are not here to get you a laundromat in 30 days. We're not here to get you a laundromat in 15 days. I saw that one the other day. We're not here to get you a free laundromat. We're not here to magically find you seller financing. We're here to really give you the straight scoop on the industry. And that's really important to us and to our members. Again, we love the business. We certainly are bullish on the industry, but we also think it's our responsibility in terms of stewardship to try to keep people focused on the real information and the real deal about the industry. So I think the best way to do that is a couple of steps. One, I'm going to give you this little bit of a statistical overview, kind of a table set on the industry as a whole. Then I'm going to get into some reasons why we love the business and some reasons why we think you ought to pursue the industry. And then I'm going to balance that off. We're going to talk about some of the challenges, pitfalls, headwinds, some of the things that maybe you don't hear so much about on social media, to kind of give you a level-headed look at it. And then we're going to touch on a couple of real key topics that we think are important to you as you're getting started, things that you need to understand a little bit better, maybe set the tables for the next level of your research into the business. And last but not least, we'll talk about additional resources that we have available, through the association that can help you along the way in your journey. So if that sounds right to everybody, let's go ahead and jump in with a little bit of a tail of the tape here at the top. So laundromat, laundromat, lavanderia, washateria, coin op laundry, laundrette. We're all talking about the same thing. We're talking about a self-service laundry facility, more specifically, what I would call retail, self-service laundry. So we're not talking about the vended laundry equipment you would find in an apartment building or a dormitory or that type of setting. We're talking about the laundromat store in the community. So I think it's important to just kind of define which part of the laundry business we're really focused on. We think there's somewhere on the order of 29,000 of those locations out there. The sales estimate of 6 billion is pretty conservative, not very conservative. You can make some good arguments with some of the data out there that's closer to 8 or 9 billion, but we'll just keep it conservative here for the moment. In terms of the physical size of the locations, we always like to start with that because that is often among the questions that we get first and foremost from folks. So the statistical average, the statistical mean is 2,850 square feet. So of course, that doesn't mean that there's a bunch of 2,850 square feet stores out there. It just means that that's the average. And it's a way to illustrate the fact that if you've done some looking around in your area, you've probably seen a great variety of sizes and shapes and iterations of the business. And that makes sense because it's a neighborhood business and the stores tend to be sized and scaled based on the demand and the needs of the neighborhood. So I say here, ranging from 1,000 to 10,000 square feet certainly is not unusual. And I guess it's an opportunity, Neal, to tell us how big is your store, how is it equipped, and just give people a sense of scale just in your example.
All right. Well, again, our store is in the city of Chicago. We are in a very densely populated area, primarily lower income. It's what would be categorized as an underserved area.
Mm-hmm.
But our store is leased. We do not own the building. We're part of a larger building, but our store is 6,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
We're open 24/7. We are fully attended. We always have people working in the store, usually 2 or more. We have a large parking lot for about 50 cars, which is a big advantage. And our immediate next door neighbor is a Family Dollar store, which is a nice complement to the laundromat. So.
Well, it's a great location. I've had the privilege of being there and a number of occasions. And yes, great co-tenant, great neighborhood, dense population, high traffic. area. And so I'm sure that's going to be among your questions as we go along here this morning, is just about what makes for a good location. So I think Neal just gave you a really nice overview of what that looks like. And you can tell the store size would be double the average. And again, these stores tend to be sort of calibrated to the markets that they're serving. Just like Neal, most of our members are leasing their space, and leases are a very critical part of this whole conversation, whether you're looking to buy new or build new or buy an existing store. And we'll circle back and talk lots about the lease as we go along. And further, Neal described his neighborhood. That's pretty typical for what we would consider our core demographic, which would be a lower income renter occupied household, preferably with children. The more people, the more dirty clothes.
The more children, the better.
We like to see lots of dirty laundry. And a lot of these folks either have limited access to laundry or no access to laundry in their living space. Somewhere on the order of 20 million families a week. And one of the things that's pretty exciting about the business, and maybe not such a factor at Neal's store, but elsewhere, we're seeing a lot more sort of what we would consider non-traditional customers, people that are coming out of apartments that may have laundry service, coming out of homes where, of course, they have a home washer, and opting for the laundromat based on speed, convenience, large capacity machines, et cetera. So that's some of the kind of the growth components that we are keeping our eye on in a positive manner for the business. So with that, I'm going to there we go. I had to change the view here so I can catch up. Yeah, Virginia, yes, we are recording the session, and we'll share it via email when we're done here. Right, so let's take yes, Owen, we will share a copy of the presentation for you. So yes, start to share out your questions here. I'm going to take a couple, 2, 3 quick questions. Deb is asking, what's the best way to buy a laundromat business with zero to limited funds? I think part of our commitment at the top to candor and telling you like it is to say that it's very difficult to do this project without a significant amount of capital in hand that you're ready to deploy. We're going to talk to you more specifically in a few minutes about what that actually looks like, but it's very difficult to make a purchase or have a finance purchase or a finance new project without somewhere on the order of 30% of the total project cost available to you in cash. I guess you could argue in equity, but typically in cash. And so, again, part of our commitment is to tell you like it is, Devin. It's very difficult without having some skin in the game to borrow the dollars that you're going to need to close out the project. Angelica is asking, what kind of insurance does Neal use for a 24/7 mat? I guess that
Easy answer, CLA insurance.
well, we didn't plan it that way,
But in fact, that's who our carrier is.
yeah, and that's one of the business solutions I referenced at the top, is that we do have our own insurance facility, and it is because you sort of infer from your question, Angelica, that it's not necessarily easy to insure laundromats, particularly 24-hour laundromats or any kind of 24-hour business these days, or an unattended business these days. So one of the things that we do is advocate with the insurance industry to try to keep our industry insurable, and making sure that that's part of our offerings going forward. So we're very happy to have Neal as a customer and many thousands other stores insured with us. But you're right to pause when it comes to 24-hour because it is more difficult to insure. Tawanda, I live in a large suburb. I'm looking to tap into the market of families with large families and people that need to wash large amounts of clothes. We are a suburb to DC. There's a market for busy families. Yeah, I mean, again, the more people, the more dirty clothes.
Right.
The more people that are renting or of a lower income level are even more likely to do laundry with you. And so markets like DC can be quite good. And the beauty of the business is that we've got members that are very successful in rural areas. Now, they don't have a 6,000 square foot store. Maybe they have a 1,200 square foot store. And so they've sort of sized that to the market. Mamadou is asking for someone with zero experience, what's the ideal first step to get properly educated? Well, this is a good step here this morning.
This is a great start. Yeah.
And really, we'll talk more about how to join the association and some of the other resources that we have. And I see your follow-up question about hands-on support, like reviewing deals. Uh, one of the benefits of you joining the association, and some of you have already done this, is that we do offer a direct connection with me as a resource. And yes, I help people look at deals. Maybe not so much negotiate the purchase, but we can certainly offer some guidelines. We have best practice guides, white papers, videos, one-on-one assistance. So yes, we can lend you a hand and also help you understand what some of the other resources are that you can tap into to help you through that process.
And if I can jump in for a
Sure,
minute,
please
there
do.
are a lot of store owners and board members, committee members, store owners all across the country that are perfectly willing to mentor new owners or new prospective owners. So I don't know where you're located, but I'm sure we could hook you up with someone who could help you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We do that kind of support and matchmaking all the time. Okay, well, good. Well, let's get, oh, so he's in New York, and we have a meeting coming up in New York in a few weeks, and I expect to see you there. And I'll tell you some more about that here in a moment. Thank you for those questions. Keep filling them in. Like you said, this is kind of how it's going to go. We'll talk a little bit, and then we'll take questions and go back and forth. But the next section that I thought was important was just to kind of talk about why laundromats. Why are we excited about the business? What do our members like about the business? And how that could potentially be a fit for you. And it begins with being an essential service, and that steady, regular, week in and week out. I mean,
Right.
you spend a fair amount of time in your stores. I bet you see a lot of the same faces every week.
Oh, there's absolutely no question. We see the same customers and they come on the same day. You know, this family comes every Thursday. This family comes every Tuesday. We even have customers that like a specific washing machine.
That's my
I
washer.
can't explain why, but they want that washer.
Uh-huh.
And it's great. And frankly, our attendants know their names. We have customers that have been coming to the store longer than we've owned it. And our attendants have watched their kids grow up. And it's a community center of sorts. And you really build a lot of relationships with your customer group.
Absolutely. And so when I work with our members over the last 3 decades plus, this is what I hear a lot of is that it's just steady, regular, recurring. You've often heard the notion of the business being recession proof. I would say recession resistant based on my experience. No one likes a recession, but our industry holds up pretty well. And the pandemic gave us a test that none of us wanted, but
That's for sure.
and it wasn't easy, but we passed that test in part by being formally designated an essential business through most, if not all the states, and then later at the federal level, where we're able to stay in business and stay open. And so that sort of resiliency, the everyday aspect of the business is something that appeals to a lot of our folks. Another sort of factor that I've come to understand is this notion of it being a simple business, not meaning easy, simple meaning straightforward, the keys to success being fairly evident and understandable. This is my short list, Neal, talking about location, cleanliness, machine, uptime, and a high level of customer service. So how does that list resonate with you?
I agree completely. Location is critical. Obviously, you want to be in an area that has a lot of foot traffic or a lot of car traffic. You want to be in a dense area if you can be densely populated. Cleanliness, I can't tell you. In fact, I'm looking at the slide. That word should be bold and all caps and twice the size of all the other words.
I'll edit that for the next
Yeah.
month. Yes.
So many of our customers will say to the attendant or say to the store manager, or even say to myself or Kate or our son, we come here because this store is so clean. And our answer is simple. We want this laundry room to be as nice for you as our laundry room at home. That's our philosophy. And we spend an inordinate amount of time and energy making sure that it is clean, clean, clean. That is number one. You've got, it has to be well lit. It has to be safe. Parking lot is critical. Uptime of the equipment, that almost goes without saying. I mean, what good is a washer if it doesn't work? You might as well not have it. So it's important that your equipment is working all the time. And customer service, this is a retail business, and retail is all about, I would even suggest it's more than customer service, it's the customer experience. And every step along that way has to be pleasant to the customer, it has to be convenient to the customer, has to be easy to understand, and that's what we try to do every day.
Well said. And I guess that's what I mean by simple, not easy, right? Simple, we can understand these factors, but it's not easy to execute. And if you've been out looking at stores and you've run across some stores perhaps that aren't so nice, you can see lots of evidence of these things being hard to execute on. And so, but again, it's pretty evident what you need to do to be successful. You know, one of the things I like to address in this part of the talk is, again, there's a lot of social media content about this being a passive or absentee business. I don't think that's an accurate description.
That's just blatantly wrong.
So, but I think it is fair to say, particularly after you get your feet wet and start to kind of create systems, you can start to sort of minimize the time that you're spending there. You can have some flexibility as to when you spend that time outside of a hose breaking or an employee doesn't show up or some kind of emergency. And so that flexibility, particularly as it relates to what I will call sort of like a lifestyle consideration, is what I hear from our members, maybe more often than anything else, short of profitability. Like no one's in this for the love of doing laundry. It's profitable. You had a different mission in your case, but it does offer some of that flexibility. So what I do hear quite often are things like, I love being able to drive my kids to school or coach Little League, or I've got another business, or I've got a day job, or I've got something else that I can sort of work in with this laundromat commitment. So I think that's a lot different than saying passive or absentee. Was there an era of this industry where that was the case? Sure. There were unattended stores and you kind of showed up once a week to collect the quarters, but you also had a pretty limited earning potential under that scenario. But I just like to disavow that notion. But I do want to highlight the flexibility and sort of those lifestyle considerations that our members talk about. And I think it's also worth noting here that it is a highly fragmented business. On that 29,000 stores out there, there's only a handful of folks that have 50 or more. And even having a 20 or 30 store operation is quite unusual. Most of our members have one or two or three. And the beauty of it is that you can build a dynamite store on a one-off basis or a two-off or three-off basis. It is attainable. There's a lot of support out there through manufacturers and vendors and associations to help you do it in a wonderful way. So this industry hasn't been rolled up, at least not yet.
Right.
We are hearing inquiries and knocking on door from private equity and other folks. We just haven't seen a whole lot of evidence of that. So there's really no national chains, like store, nationwide, if you will. And we have seen some fledgling franchises enter the marketplace, and some have gotten beyond the fledgling stage and may have dozens of locations out there. But again, taken on that population of 30,000, it's really still kind of has the potential to be an owner operator, mom and pop business in the best sense of those words.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree, absolutely.
Good. Good. All right, let's pop back over to some Q&A here. Stephen Faulkner is asking about websites for demographic reports. Um, yeah, there are a bunch out there. Off the top of my head, there's one that's called Easy Demographics, EASI, Easy Demographics. There's one called Ideal Spot, like finding the ideal
Mhm,
spot.com.
mhm.
And you just search for demographic reports and you'll find lots of resources that can do that. The two that I mentioned, I believe, have Laundromat templates that we've helped them with over the years. Um, I should also mention that if you are going to work with a local commercial laundry equipment distributor, which is a key part of the process of developing a new location, they are typically in a role of providing you with those demographics, even more importantly, in interpretation, commentary and interpretation of those demographics with respect to potential business. Is this a good location or not? So, Stephen, there are a lot of resources there. We have white papers, videos, consultations that we do on demographics and site analysis. So there is help available to you on that.
I would also say that I have not personally used it, but I've recently been told that you can even go to Chat GPT, and if you understand how to frame the question or the assignment, if you will, Chat GPT can give you a demographic report in about 3 seconds.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to interpret it for you and say, yes, this is the best possible location. You're going to need some help curating the results, if you will. But that's
Yes,
another option.
yes. AI is starting to learn, literally, learn
Yeah,
some more about the laundromat business.
right.
But again, you got to kind of take all those things with the right measure. Um, Mamadou, we'll talk some more about the investment here in just a moment. Mohammed's asking, are there companies who can help with the whole process from selecting location to start? So I did want to kind of cover this at one point, so I might as well cover it now. So how is this business organized from a vendor, product, service standpoint? So, we do have manufacturers of washers, dryers, coin changers, card systems, point of sale systems, et cetera. That are also members of CLA. We have a service provider category that are providing some of the software and the management components for the business. So imagine those kind of here on this tier. And then we have a tier, what you would probably be familiar with as a wholesale distributor. In our business, it's organized on sort of especially in the washers and dryers, and sort of a authorized dealer or exclusive dealer as it relates to territory. So in your area, there's probably a commercial laundry equipment distributor for washer brands A, B, C, D, E, and F. And those folks are obviously in a sales role, but they're also in a consultative role. So what I'll do here is kind of give you a potential scope of services that you may take advantage of from your local distributor, that your local distributor may be offering. And so that would be everything from sort of a beginner conversation, talking a little bit about the industry, to running a demographic report, as Stephen was asking about, offering some interpretations thereof. There would be some site analysis that you might expect from your distributor to evaluate a site. It would be totally expected that a distributor would also provide you with some kind of recommendation in terms of equipment mix and a quote for the purchase of that equipment. It'd also be typical for that same distributor to offer you some kind of pro forma based on the equipment mix, the demographics, et cetera.
Well, and even a preliminary layout of a store, if you
Definitely,
had a spot.
definitely a preliminary layout. They would typically also be able to facilitate connections with their affiliated financing program to help finance the purchase of the store. As you start to get into a construction phase, some will act as a GC on the project to get the store built for you. At a minimum, though, they would probably have referrals to make to contractors or individual trades, plumbers, electricians, et cetera, that have experience with building out laundromats. This is not something for your brother's cousin's brother-in-law who maybe is a plumber. This is something
It's
that really, it's
specialized.
specialized, is our point. Beyond either doing the construction or supporting the construction, a good distributor obviously is going to also install the equipment, test the equipment, perhaps provide grand opening support, marketing support, and then, of course, we'll typically offer some kind of service after the sale with respect to maintaining equipment and so on and so forth. So you have the kind of this wide, to Mohammed's question, just having this wide scope of services that are available through these local distributors. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. Our website has a directory of those folks based on geography because these companies are also members of the association. So we all try to work together to kind of push the industry forward. So distributors are an important part of the process.
Absolutely. And the other thing I would say is, if you are thinking about buying an existing store as opposed to building a new store, uh, distributors are, again, the resource. They know where the stores are. They know the store owners. They know who's more likely to be trying to sell than not. And so again, the distributors can give you a lot of guidance, even if you want to buy an existing store.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And yes, they have a sales motivation. Yes, they'd love to sell you some equipment, but they can be more than one thing. They could also have expertise in understanding the market that you're interested in. Certainly the expertise in scoping out the store, getting the store built, getting it open for business, et cetera, particularly if you're a first timer in the industry. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. So keep those questions coming. I have a couple from Karen in the queue that we'll get to in a moment. Keandra has a question, but let's get back into some content here so we don't fall behind, because we get to talking about the business and we can fall behind. So we painted this rosy picture, this wonderful laundromat business. It's been around for decades. It's steady. It's regular. So what's the flip side of that? Why not laundromats? What are some of the challenges and pitfalls and things that people may encounter or want to consider when you're in this stage of your research? So one thing that I'm talking a lot about these days is kind of this notion of scarcity. The business is red hot right now. There is a limited inventory of stores for sale, and the ones that are for sale, there's usually a ton of interest in. Some of those are priced right, some of those are priced wrong, some of those have the right lease, some of those have the wrong lease, some have newish equipment, some have ancient equipment. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a slide about valuation. But and I don't add this to dissuade anybody, but I think it's important to give people realistic expectations. You're not going to go find a store right away, typically. And there may be some limitations in terms of what's available and whether those stores that are available sort of meet the criteria that you ought to be looking for. And by definition, the new builds, the new locations can be scarce in the sense that these are specialized locations. It's not general retail. We're looking to be located very close to the heartbeat of our customer base. We have construction needs, we have utility needs, we have parking needs, and long lease needs that maybe aren't typical for a retail build out. So you just have to be sort of going into this understanding that finding the right fit may take some time and some effort to get you to where you're trying to get to. This is one I like to bring out, and you sort of embrace the other end of this consideration, which is engagement with the general public. It's not for everybody.
It is not. It is not.
And so Neal loves his customers. He has a great relationship with his customers, as does his family, with Kate and Michael. But you're open for business. We're in sometimes a little tougher neighborhoods. And so I guess I would say that, dealing with the general public can sometimes be challenging. We do have a little bit of a front row seat when it comes to things like homelessness or addiction or other challenges. And so again, I don't say that to dissuade anybody, but rather to kind of set expectations. Do you think it's fair that I bring this part of it up?
I think it's absolutely fair. First of all, retail, I don't care if it's a laundromat or Neiman Marcus.
Right.
Retail is a whole thing of its own. And if you are there and you're dealing with the customers, sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with somebody who has expectations that are just unreasonable. And how do you do that? Well, not, that's not for everybody,
Right,
okay?
right.
The other thing is, to Brian's point, it's well taken. Laundromats are typically in underserved areas. And particularly if you're in big city like Chicago, you're gonna see all of the worst of the worst. And how you deal with that can be challenging at times. We have a very good relationship with the police department, and we've had the police department in our store more than once, I can assure you. And again, that's not for everybody. You know, if you have somebody who's intoxicated and sleeping on the floor in your store, when you come in one night at 10 o'clock, what are you gonna do? Not everybody wants to be put in that situation,
Yeah,
and I get that. So I have often heard people say, particularly if you're talking about buying an existing store, go in the store and sit there for 3 or 4 hours and see what it means to be in that laundromat and see if you really think it's something that you can deal with on an ongoing basis. So,
well, that just happens to be my next piece of advice here
oh,
on the slide, which is to go out and do laundry. So, you know, again, it's not a dangerous business. And if you are in one of these tougher areas, you have video surveillance, you have security, you have training that you can employ to try to take care of those things. And we have members that deal with that every single day. But I do think that it's helpful in a lot of ways if you put 2 loads of towels in your trunk and stop and do laundry wherever you can, you're going to, if it's in your area you're looking at, you're going to start to build a little bit of a competitive analysis of what's out there. As Neal and I've been talking about, you're going to get some sense of this is where you want to spend your time, is the environment you want to be in. And honestly, you're going to get a great sort of dossier of what you like and what you don't like, features, benefits, layouts, equipment, approaches. So you can't be harmed by going out and doing a bunch of laundry. So that's my favorite piece of advice and the one that I get the best feedback on. I had a member the other day. She was a wonderful person. She called me up about a month later, said, Brian, you know what? I'm going to be the shortest lived member you've ever had. I said, oh, tell me, please tell me what's wrong. Oh, no, you guys have been great. But I took your advice. I went out and did some laundry and it's just not for me, which is fine. I think we did our job. We performed our role and it just wasn't for her. But the number one challenge that I come across, having worked with many thousands of first timers like yourselves, is the financial wherewithal, the financial commitment. And again, this is probably a 2-hour topic, but I'll try to do it in 5 minutes. So I can't tell you that it's the biggest challenge and not give you any kind of scale or scope. And this goes to some of the questions I see queued up in the chat. So how much money do you need? Okay, well, when it comes to existing laundromats, it's pretty straightforward. You see laundromats listed for sale for a few $100,000, you see them listed for a few million and everywhere in between. So that's pretty much straightforward. And then, we can talk some more in a minute about valuation and due diligence, but it's pretty evident what that is. Now, if you're looking to finance that purchase, meaning you're not in a position to pay cash, in terms of the most readily available financing on acquisitions, you're going to need 30 to 40% of that total in cash ready to go. And obviously the credit score and other qualifications to borrow the balance. Can you find an SBA loan at 10%? Sure. But there's a lot of rigmarole to go through there, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And once in a blue moon, can you find a seller financed situation? Maybe, but they're typically going to be looking for you to have some serious skin in the game before they're willing to do that. So, that kind of gets to how much money you're going to need in, cold hard cash ready to go to work. On a new laundromat, this is a little bit more complex, and I'm going to give this example with a couple of guidelines just to keep us focused. We're not talking about real estate. We're talking about an existing space. It's kind of a white box, vanilla box, or being used for some other purpose, and we need to turn this space within these 4 walls into a laundromat. And so I'm talking about the cost of any utility connections. I'm talking about carpentry, floors, ceilings, equipment installation, floor cuts for plumbing. In other words, converting this into a laundromat, including the equipment itself and the installation. I ask this question everywhere I go, every week. What is this breaking down on a per square foot basis? Because I think that's the easiest way to kind of calibrate this for you. So $300 to $400 a square foot is a pretty good starting point. I was just in Boston for a show a couple weeks ago. Did I hear some 500s? For sure. Do I run into some projects in Florida that are out higher end of this range? For sure. I just did a show in Oklahoma, Missouri a few weeks ago. Maybe 300 is a little high for that area. So I do think that this is a decent starting point to give you some sense of it. And this, you could tie this back to the what, 2,850 square feet we talked about on the first slide is the average store. So yes, the average store build out today is $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.4 million, and certainly can be much higher than that if you get into a 6,000 square foot store or bigger location. So, but there's a lot of asterisks here and a lot of variables, too many to cover in this moment. And anything short of a real bid on a real project is just about a guess. But I wanted to give you some guidelines as to what you need. And I think this is important in the context of some of the content that you might see out there on the socials that give you the impression that for 30,000 or 50,000 or 60,000 or 100,000, you can do a store. That's just not the typical experience. Right. And I'm sure you've given some thought. You don't have to say, but you've probably given some thought about what it would take to build your store new today.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if for no other reason to try to decide how much insurance you're going to buy. But I I guess I would say these numbers are probably, good numbers. They're good talking numbers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Equipment can be a lot or a little, obviously, depending on the size of the store and if you buy smaller machines or larger machines. So you absolutely need to get a quote from a distributor. But going back to your first idea of how much cash do you need, the build out is kind of on you.
Right.
You're going to be hard pressed to finance the build out, but the equipment you can readily finance through the manufacturers or through different lending bodies that
Mm-hmm.
specialize.
Captive lenders, laundromat lenders.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And specialize in laundromats. So you probably need, I don't know, 20% down for the equipment. But the build out is going to be on you unless if you're going into an existing building, maybe the landlord will give you some amount of money for build out, but probably not the total.
No. And again, we need heavy dose of utilities. There's a lot of things that go into that picture. So why don't we just keep rolling and because we've got a couple of related topics that follow here, and then we'll pause and get back to your questions. So let's just do a 3 or 4 minute rundown on valuation. What are these stores worth? Again, a 3-hour topic. We've got a lot of other resources that we can share with you after this webinar. But laundromats are basically, again, excluding real estate, are valued on multiple of you could say EBITDA, you could say net operating income. Essentially, the operating expenses taken from the top line revenue of the store. So historically, most stores are selling in that 3 to 5 times the annual net. I guess it doesn't mean that that's what they're worth. It means what they sell for. And I'll talk about that range. And I will make a note here that valuations are trending higher in today's market. There's a lot of demand out there. I'm seeing a lot of stores going for the higher end of the range, or even exceeding this range, that have certain characteristics that I'll describe here in a moment. So even 3 to 5, they can drive a truck through that range. So how do we really understand what's a 3 times versus a 4 times or a 5 times or a 6 times or a 2 time? It comes down to a couple basics here. Net income, I know, is part of this multiplier, but I think it's fair to say that Larger stores with higher volumes are in more demand than smaller stores.
Right.
But more importantly, age and condition of equipment and terms and conditions of the lease. So let's talk about some of these basics. Equipment is expensive, okay? And if you're buying new washers today, the small washers will probably be 3,000 or 4,000. Large washers, 25,000, 28,000 per washer, right? And a lot in between. Therefore, when you're looking at buying a business, it makes a big difference if this equipment is 4 or 5 years old or the equipment is 22 years old.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You know, in the former scenario, you feel like you're good to go. You probably have a 10-year runway before you need to worry about buying new equipment and recapitalizing the business. And the latter, you need to think about re-equipping that store immediately. So that should greatly inform what you're willing to pay for the business, if anything, when you've got the need to re-equip. Now let's talk about leases. Why are we hammering away at leases? Well, it comes down to the fact that you can't pick up and move a laundromat.
Right.
And the cash flow that you're generating is being protected by a lease for a finite period of time. There's X number of years left on the lease. And so in a manner of speaking, when the lease is up, you're out of business. And so if you're looking at a store for sale that has 6 years left on the lease, and then you look at a store that's got 26 years left on the lease, which one are you more interested in buying and willing to pay up for? Obviously, it's the one that has ample time remaining. So it sort of kind of leads to an adage that the longer the lease, the newer the equipment, the more the store is worth. The shorter the lease, the older the equipment,
The less.
the less the store is worth.
Yeah.
And again, there's a lot to parse in between all of that, but that is really kind of what drives valuation. And I'm sure you were sitting there thinking, well, Brian, I just looked at a bunch of stores. They all have 15-year-old equipment. They only have a few years left on the lease, but they're asking crazy money. Like, yeah, they're probably asking crazy money.
Right. Doesn't mean they're going to get it.
Doesn't mean they're going to get it, and doesn't mean you should give it to them. But you know, we're here to kind of just talk the facts. And what I like about this is that we have the same conversation with sellers. You know, we don't change this for sellers versus buyers. This is just how it goes. Furthermore, due diligence can be challenging for any small business. Any small business that deals with cash can be challenging. We have a lot of resources and things we can share with you to help you with due diligence. And another thing I think gets missed sometimes in valuation of existing stores is what else is out there. There's 2 stores competing, and they're both terrible. There's 6 stores competing, and 2 are great, and 4 are mediocre. And so you have to kind of look at all these things in that context of what's available in the market. And someday, way in the future, if you ever decided to sell, you would probably be thinking about adding time to your lease. You'd be thinking about calibrating that, timing it right with the age and condition of your equipment, and maybe consider what's happening with other stores in the neighborhood in terms of your timing to be a seller. So valuation is complicated, but this is a really good place, I think, for you to start. So let's talk about financing terms, just because that came up and you kindly addressed that, and then we'll really jump into some more questions. Again, first-time laundromat owners, it's a challenge on financing for many of you. Some of you have a strong balance sheet. You'll stroke a check and you're good to go, or you have an existing relationship with a bank based on another business or other holdings that you may have. But for most first-time people, here's what options you have. Again, this conventional bank for a small business loan or SBA guaranteed loan. That's readily available. You need to find a local banker that's willing to do those types of loans. You tend to need to find a bank that has sort of an SBA guru or Sherpa that can kind of guide you through it, the paperwork, et cetera. The benefit tends to be often longer terms at a lower rate and in a smaller down payment. But again, there's a lot of hoops to jump through there. And sometimes one of the obstacles is they're looking for your 2 years of experience or 3 years of experience. Well, I'm a first-time laundromat owner.
Right.
So some of those things can be challenging.
Or if you're going to build a new location, you have no history to show. So that can be difficult.
Yeah, in the conventional manner. And because small business lending can be tricky or just not readily available, what our industry did 25 years ago was create kind of its own financing ecosystem, what I'll call captive lenders. In other words, lenders that just lend to our business. And as Neal rightfully pointed out, with a focus on sort of collateralizing the equipment that they are selling and have, if something goes south, they can remarket that equipment. They typically want to be in a lease position where they can remarket the location along with that equipment. And so that what kind of covers their end of it. So there are numerous what I'll call captive lenders, either through the manufacturers or in independent companies that have close relationships with the manufacturers. And yes, we have a directory of those folks on our website, laundryassociation.org, along with that directory of distributors that I mentioned a little bit earlier in the conversation. But this is to me the most common option that I see. Yes, you can occasionally come across seller financing. I know that there's some social media content out there that talks about this being an everyday thing. I don't come across it very often. And often when I do see it, there's some kind of issue with documentation, or the bank won't lend on the project, so the seller has to provide the financing. So just be wary. Don't have this as an expectation of something that would be readily available. Fair?
Yeah, absolutely fair.
And again, you're going to need a down payment at a minimum. And I was just talking to a brand new member earlier this week, and we kind of talked about this cobbling together of getting this loan and maybe that loan and your cash, and maybe you have a partner, a family member. For people to get started, there is quite often some bootstrapping that needs to happen to get that first project across the finish line. So if that's you, don't be discouraged. It's more typical than not that you really have to kind of pull together this initial project.
And I think that's typical in any small business situation.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, if you have a big bank account, you have no concerns about down payments and that's great. But for a lot of people, that initial move into entrepreneurship is first to go to friends and family. And as Brian says, bootstrapping the money together, and you go from there. So,
okay, good. Well, appreciate everyone's patience and us kind of getting through those key topics. We've got a few more, but now we'll try to backtrack and get into some of these questions. Karen, thank you for being patient. You were next up in the Q&A box. Better to lease than to buy a space. I would say that 99% of our members, if they had the opportunity and the financial wherewithal, they'd buy the building.
well, certainly if it's a standalone building, yes. I mean, if you're in a strip mall and there's 12 other
Good point.
businesses,
Good point.
maybe not.
Right.
But if it's standalone, I would say yes.
Okay. And in other words, we just got done talking about the sort of the vulnerabilities that can come with lease in terms of your ability to do business and even in the valuation. So that would be one thing that people will look at. And I quite often have members that earlier in their careers, they're leasing space and they are bootstrapping, and they get a second store, a third store. Maybe the time they get to that second or third or fourth store, they're looking for something where they can buy the real estate. And I see some of those same people, if it's, say, a 20-year trajectory, maybe they at times will offload stores where they're leasing and putting those resources into a second location where they own the real estate, or a third location. That would be a common pattern that I would see over time. Can you translate the numbers for capital needed for the purchase? A laundromat being sold for 100,000. Do I need to have 30 in order to borrow the other 70? Yes, that's kind of that formula that we shared earlier in terms of what might be available in that respect. Karen, your follow-up question is about advantages and disadvantages to attended versus unattended laundromats. Well, I would say that the advantage to unattended is that cost savings. Yeah, cost savings.
You're not paying something.
Not paying for the labor. The drawbacks, however, could be a higher incidence of vandalism or damage. It's more difficult to keep the place clean. We talked about
Right.
that being
Right.
a large factor. But in my view, it tends to be sort of dictated again by the marketplace. So I would say that the majority of unattended stores, I tend to find those in less densely populated areas, more rural areas, smaller stores that can't afford an attendant. Um, and I guess the flip of that is if you have an attendant, you can keep it cleaner, you can keep it safer, customers feel better, and you can offer the additional services like wash, dry, fold processing or delivery processing.
Right. Right.
So it really is just a matter of a given project. Kiandra, average cost for the equipment. Like I said, that it ranges greatly based on size. Like I said, washers can be a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars per washer, depending on the capacity.
Right.
So maybe a 20-pound capacity in the one end of that range, and maybe an 80-pound washer on the other end of that range. Is there more of a preference now for digital payments? I would say, and I guess Owen has a similar question right behind you. Yeah, this method of payment question comes up quite a lot. The way I answer it, Neil, is that the majority of stores are now offering a hybrid solution, meaning they're accepting quarters, but also accepting debit, credit, what we'll call a loyalty card or a laundry card.
Right.
As
Apple
what
Pay,
Apple Pays
iPhone.
was, mobile payment. So I believe that's what you're
Right.
doing at your location. Or are you
Uh,
all card?
no, we are all
All
card.
card. Okay.
But if somebody has not been to our store and they come in with a Ziploc bag full of quarters, we will take their quarters and give them a laundry card with equivalent value. Again, this is retail and it's all about the customer experience. And certainly younger people, everything's on their phone. I mean, my kids don't have cash. My kids don't have credit cards. All they have is their
Their
phone.
phone. Right.
Everything's on their phone. So we would be remiss if we weren't accepting that as a form of payment. So I like to say if anything looks like money, we'll figure out a way to take it.
Yeah, well, and it's reflected in the numbers, right? We survey all these questions. So we have an annual benchmarking survey that comes with your membership that talks about payment methods, and we're going to share some expense ratios and some other data here with you. So you can kind of look at the statistical view, which again, the majority now are on a hybrid. The sort of card only or cashless is on the order of, off the top of my head, about 15% of the market. And then the quarter only is, I think, just now dipped below 30%. Quarters is the only form of payment. So the hybrid is definitely kind of winning that battle right now in terms of the preferences among our members. Oh, and you had another question. What, if any, wastewater issues that need to be addressed? Complicated question. Short answer, not a lot, with the big exception, which is to say, in some markets, you have what are called impact fees or tap-on fees that are assessed on new construction of a laundromat on a per washer basis that can be, frankly, exorbitant.
Right.
So if you're doing due diligence in a market, one of the first questions you want to ask is, are there impact fees for laundromats in this jurisdiction? Those can range from a couple hundred, well, no, it's a couple $1,000s per washer. We were just had our big show in Orlando. It's $10,000 per washer to build out new,
That's staggering.
right? So if you've
That's
got
staggering. But it is a one-time
it's a one-time
tax,
fee.
really.
Yeah, it's a one-time tax,
Yeah,
but could make a whole heck of a lot of difference if you learn this late in the process. Ask about it early and often, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
But as far as ongoing, a laundromat doesn't have any wastewater considerations different than your house. It's essentially the same process. So
Yeah, yeah.
you might have to have what are we
Oh.
have them out in
Lint trap.
lint trap kind of thing, yeah. But other than that, no, there's no wastewater concerns.
Okay. Yeah, and again, there are some individual jurisdictions that will categorize us in an area that's a little bit higher on a rate basis, based on the treatment that's needed. But Neal's right. It's not an everyday issue outside of this impact fee. Linda, would you recommend zombie mats as an initial purchase, especially for new owners? It can be if what? The price is right, the lease is right, and
And if you're committed to retooling the store
to
from the
retooling
get-go.
from the get-go.
Otherwise, you're just going to have problems and drive yourself crazy.
Right. So Linda, if you can get the lease right, get the price right, and build in the fact that you're going to need to re-equip the facility, then that can be a very good way to do it. Tawanda, what's the average startup time for a laundromat business? So we're talking about a build out, getting open for business. Boy, back in the day, used to say 90 days or 6 months. I'm hearing a lot more
Not anymore.
closer to a year to build
Yeah.
out. It's a combination of permitting and red tape. It's a issue of trades and construction being hard to find in some markets. These guys are quite busy. But I would say 6 months to a year would be a fair range, with probably more going on the longer end of that
And
scale.
that's after you had identified the facility and really were ready to start the process.
Yeah, that would be kind of shovel in the ground, so to speak, on that basis. Angelica, did you see of SBA contacts through the membership? No. Again, the SBA as a general sense likes laundromats, has done laundromats, but you're really looking for that local banker that has an SBA appetite and has somebody on staff that's looking to do that. Owen, is allowing customers to reserve machines in advance a service that is typically offered? I would say no. There are some apps now that would allow a customer to look at availability, as I understand it. We can see if there's machines available just in a general sense, but not reserving. But good question. New technology is coming along all the time, so we'll see where that takes us. Angelica, do you have vendors that have water reuse systems? No. It's a logical question. I was just visiting with my friend who runs the Car Wash Association. Yesterday, they're doing water reuse on a regular basis. Laundromats are not doing water reuse.
No.
There are numerous considerations, at least up to this point, everything from space considerations, cost considerations, and where people might be comfortable washing their car with reused water. Maybe they're not as comfortable washing their garments and textiles with reused water, but I certainly can see the concern or the appetite for that, because water and sewer is a big cost for us.
It's certainly a big cost. It's typically in the top 5. But wastewater treatment is expensive. It does take up a lot of space. And in the case of laundromats, you really don't know what's going down the drain. So it's pretty hard to design a system that covers everything.
Yeah, so. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm just kind of looking at a couple of questions in the chat. I think we're going to answer in these next couple of slides. We got about 22 minutes left. So we'll pick up the pace a little bit, but you guys have been great on the questions. So I referenced this annual survey, and I wanted to just share out these expense ratios. And when I say expense ratio, for every dollar of revenue, how much is going out to pay these various expenses? So number one is typically utilities. So on average, stores are spending 20% of what they take in to pay water, sewer, gas, and electric, to our recent questions and points here. If you're looking at existing stores, don't be afraid to try to do some quick math on this one, because it tends to be illuminating. If you do this math and you come up at 20%, great. If you comes back at 32% or 38% or 28%, it tells you something a little bit different about the store, which is typically there's some inefficiency which is primarily in the order of older washers and dryers that are using at a higher rate. Conversely, a brand new store, or Linda, I think you had asked about re-equipping a zombie mat, you should probably be opening the doors at 15% utilities, or maybe even a little bit lower, because of using the latest and greatest technology. So the way I like to look at it, Neal, is that essentially utilities are your variable cost in what is primarily a fixed cost business, right? And the more laundry you do, the more water, sewer, gas, electric you use. And so the efficiency at which you use that can be a big determiner of your profitability.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just look at the numbers you have on this slide. When you say the target is between 15 and 20%, that's a 5% swing. 5% of your top line is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So,
Let alone if it's an older store that's at 30%, 32, 35%. So, and it's also with those older stores, this also presents the biggest opportunity. Now, again, the catch is you got to buy a bunch of new equipment.
right.
But in what I call the equipment equation, you can quite often pencil out where the utility savings, the opportunity to grow the business, the higher VEN prices can often cover that note that you'd be taking to buy the new equipment. So
Yeah.
that's some math you can consider. Rent, statistical average is just under 24%. I would say, again, most of our members would love to have their total rent cost at 20%. But again, the average is a bit higher than that. Lower the better, obviously, because that truly is a fixed cost. Payroll for those that have employees, which is the majority, the statistical average is at 22%. Again, a target would be 15 to 20%. Some of us are in markets with much higher minimum wages.
And that is a big consideration. Minimum wage for sure is a consideration. The other thing is, if you do a high volume of drop-off laundry, or if you have a pickup and delivery service, your payroll costs are going to go up because you just need more people to process the clothes.
Right. And you hope you have enough revenue coming from those to kind of keep that in line. Well, we sort of glossed over that. I know that's not on this slide, but you created a delivery service that is a significant part of your business. So you mind telling the folks just a moment about your Wash Ferries residential laundry delivery? Because it is something that people ask me about quite often.
Right. Well, Wash Ferries is a company that we create. We actually bought a small pickup and delivery service from another laundromat owner who was tearing his hair out because he hated it. And we bought it. It was very small. It had less than 100 customers. That was 6 years ago. And we created this Wash Ferries using our laundromat facility in the overnight hours. So we pick up and deliver during the day, and then all the laundry is processed at night. It has become a significant business. But I tell people, be careful what you wish for. My wife would tell you that it is 30% of our top line and 70% of our aggravation. It's a very concierge business, a lot of scheduling involved. You never know how much laundry needs to be processed until it gets there. So between 5 o'clock in the afternoon and 10 o'clock at night, you're trying to figure out the staffing and get the right number of people in. Payroll is a big part of the total cost. And the other thing I tell people is there's really 3 buckets to our business. There's a walk-in self-service customer, there's a walk-in drop-off customer, and there's the pickup and delivery customer. The walk-in drop-off customer has the highest profit margin of the 3. And the pickup and delivery has a significantly lower profit margin because you've got trucks and drivers and systems and people that are processing the clothes overnight. And, you're giving away free laundry bags, and you've got all kinds of supplies associated with the packaging. So it's a very different business, but it's not unprofitable. It is a profitable business.
Just not as profitable as the other buckets.
Certainly not in terms of margin.
Yeah, right.
So,
okay, no, great. Thanks for sharing that. I know that people are interested to learn some more about that. So I got a couple more slides, and then I see a few more questions queued up. From our survey, I wanted to share a little bit with respect to gross revenue and net profitability. Now, again, these are industry statistics. This is, I think it's fair to tie this back to that 2,850 square feet as a crosstab. So whatever that is, $120, $110 a square foot. In terms of profitability, we certainly have a median at 27%, meaning half of our members are outperforming that. That's without the debt service, though. That's on this operating expense basis. So the disposition of where you are in terms of needing a loan and servicing that debt, has a lot to do with how much cash makes it to your pocket. And it's fair to say that a lot of our members really celebrate year 6 or 7 or 8 when they've retired that initial debt service. Cash flow goes through the roof,
Right.
but then the clock is ticking over the next
Your equipment is wearing
your
out.
equipment is wearing out. So you have to kind of get those things calibrated the right way to maintain profitability, but also in terms of what you can get for the business should you decide to sell or need to sell. I'll just save this. I said we're recording this. We're going to share this with you. I won't read this back to you, but I get a lot of questions about pros and cons, buy versus build. This does, I think, a pretty decent job talking about buying a store. You have an existing known cash flow, presumably. The other end is you probably have older equipment and a shorter lease and inheriting some challenges. New, latest and greatest. Everybody loves new, but it's a lot more expensive to do new. But there's some other things that you can be adding there in terms of advantages. So my advice is always to keep your options open. Try to evaluate each opportunity on its own merits, whether it's a purchase or a build. Either can be successful or unsuccessful depending on those considerations. Lease. We're talking about the lease. One more slide, one more bite at the apple for leases, but just to drive it home is that if you're leasing your space, the lease has to be right. And we've talked about probably all of this already, with the exception of some specifics on years. I would say most of our members out of the box, if they're trying to do a new project, they're going to ask for 20 or 25 years total. So maybe that's a 10-year initial term with 3 5-year options. That totals 25. I have a member in Texas that's routinely getting 30 years. The flip side of that is what's too little time, particularly at an existing store. I say 10. Some will argue with me 8 or 9, but it's not 6 or 7 or 3 or 4 years left. Right. Because you're going to need time to recover your investment. You're not going to get a 7-year loan with 6 years left on the lease, right? Because the lender is hip to what we're talking about. So there's quite often an opportunity to extend. So whether that's being taken advantage of from the seller or you as a buyer, maybe it's a contingency for your purchase that, hey, we need to negotiate more term. But like I said, you can't pick up and move. And so you really need to make sure that the lease duration, of course, fine print, of course, the cost of the lease, but the duration is really critical. So I just want to drive that home. And if you're looking for a shortcut as you're evaluating stores for sale, I would ask about the lease first.
Well, listen, if you don't have a lease, you don't have a business. So, how long do you want to be in business? Are you happy with 5 years? You're in it just to stick your toe in the water and see if you like it. Okay, but if it's something you really feel like you want to do, again, if you don't have a lease, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well said. Well said. Okay, well, from here, it's 2 things I want to do. One, I want to share a few resources, and then I want to jump back into those last couple of questions and make sure we get everybody closed out on their questions. Other resources. This is a great resource. This is the at the CLA Spotlight. It's one of our YouTube channels that really profiles a lot of our great members. So if you really want to get a feel of great stores, great owners in their story, Neal and Kate were featured on a episode. So if you want to see inside their store and see all the things we've been talking about.
You can see us on YouTube.
You can see us on YouTube. So this is a great resource for us to highlight our members, but I think it could be very educational for you. There's, I don't know, 20 plus episodes that have posted. Maybe it's 25 by now. So check out the CLA Spotlight. I alluded to the fact that Neal's a customer of ours in CLA Insurance. We also have a resource for buying natural gas and electricity contracts for those of you that are in deregulated markets. We also have a very affordable digital marketing solution for the basics that you could take advantage of. So there's a lot of help out there that's available to you. We have an incredible women's laundry network, of which I'm sure Kate's a member. They have regular programming. They have a end of the year little happy hour meetup scheduled. But you go to our website, you can enroll in our women's laundry network. It's a great cohort. Talk about mentoring. Really a great opportunity for those of you that want to do that. We also have our upcoming Excellence in Laundry event coming up in May. So just check out the website. You can get some more information on that, as well as the Women's Laundry Network. Connect Live. We have local meetings, meetups for our members, simple dinner meetings. They're a lot of fun, a great way to network, especially if you're new. So if you are in Atlanta or can get to Atlanta this week, I highly recommend it. A lot of those videos that I was just referencing were shot in Atlanta. So we've got a couple of great operators between Yvette, Ali, Omar, and Stan are the four that we featured there. Those of you in Northern California, coming up December 4th, New York City, I'll be there on December 11th. I saw some of you were New York based. I just talked to several of our newbies that went to the last one in New York, and they just said it just was a game changer. They met people, they made contacts, they really understood what was going on. So that's another resource for you. If you join the association, there's lots of resources that come your way, including a link to my personal calendar to book a consultation. So I love doing those. I do them every day, and you have a friend in the business, you have a resource. And if I don't know the answer, I've got friends in the business that may know the answer or can be in a mentoring position for you. So take advantage of that. The membership is priced at $599. Which when you're ready to buy something that's 500,000 or a million or more,
small
it's a small investment. And because you spent the time with us today, we've knocked $100 off that price with this promo code. So I'll leave this up on screen and we'll go back and clean up a few of these remaining questions. Let's see here. Karen, what's the difference between owning a laundromat and investing in one? I think semantics. We say investor, we mean owner operator. And so maybe that's confusing. That's on us, Karen. But like I said before on this passive versus as absentee, our members, with very, very few exceptions, are owner operators, hands-on operators.
Right.
So they've made an investment, but they're also operating the business. So maybe that lends some clarity, Karen. Eric had asked, let's see here, what aspects of building out? I think we've answered most of these questions. Net margin, we just had on screen, Eric. Mamadou is asking about SBA requiring the original owners to hold the note for 10 years now, if you're doing it, presumably acquisition financing. Most lenders, even captive lenders, if it's an acquisition scenario or transfers of a lease for that matter, the seller tends to get locked in, particularly on the lease as a second and be in a second position. In terms of holding the note, I don't know that really translates. So based on your question, you may be referring to sellers being kept on the lease for years past, and some will negotiate. All right, well, Neal's going to buy my store. So the lease may say things like, landlord must approve Neal. It may say that Neal needs to have an equal or greater net worth, must have a net worth of a minimum of X. And it may also require me to stay on the lease just so the landlord has assurance that Neal's going to pay his bills. And maybe I'm the seller, I can wean off that lease after 3 years or 5 years or whatever we can negotiate. So those things would not be uncommon. Julia's asking about the captive laundromat lenders. Again, there's a list on our website that there's even categorized. You can pull that list and see those contacts. You're welcome, Karen. Owen's asking about EBT payments. So without getting into a long explanation, there are public benefits that are available. SNAP has been in the news a lot lately.
Right.
In a lot of states, EBT or that type of public support is split into two parts, one being food, which is at least in Illinois is called SNAP. A lot of places call SNAP. In some areas, there is a discretionary piece called TANF, Temporary Assistance Needy Families. I think it's TANF. That cash portion of EBT, people can spend on different things, including laundry.
Right.
Some of the card laundry systems allow for the acceptance of that portion of the EBT payment.
Right. We accept that
You
in our
accept
store.
in your store. Most that I speak with, Neal, it's not a big part of the business. There's not a whole lot of people paying via EBT, but
Well, there aren't a lot of people that get cash benefits. It's at least in Illinois, the majority of those, and they call them link cards in Illinois. The majority of the link cards are only SNAP, which is food.
Food only.
So it's a very small part of our total.
Yeah. But a lot of our vendor members that have the card systems can facilitate your acceptance of EBT and kind of walk you through the process. But one of the first questions for you is probably going to be, well, how many of your customers are on EBT? And if they're on EBT, do they have TANF? In other words, the cash benefits in addition to SNAP. So there's a little bit of homework there. I can help you if you join up, give me a call and we can talk through it. Deb, I missed it. These ratios from operating expenses or monthly gross or what? Okay. So I gave you those expense ratios that you could apply it monthly, you could apply it annually. It's just a percentage based on the revenue that are coming in. Is there some sort of checklist? Yeah, we have a white paper best practice guide that has a lot of that support for first timers. We can help you through that process of how to get up and running, no doubt about it. Andrew just shared our spotlight page, as well as a number of other resources there. Mamadou, I'll meet you in New York. Awesome. Great. Appreciate that. Andrew gave you the link for the event. Stacy, you're welcome. Great information. It is an annual fee to become a member. So I said the first time membership is $5.99. The renewal in subsequent years is $3.49. And again, we had the promo code on screen for you. So yes, a couple of those questions about the fee. The renewal fee is lower. Yes, yes, yes. You're welcome, Dev. Love to share the information. You're welcome, Trey. Tawanda, you're very, very welcome. And I do look forward to you joining. So, Neal, what else should we say in our last 3 minutes here?
I think what we need to say is that CLA is a tremendous resource. You all have taken the first step. You obviously know about CLA. You're participating in this webinar. If you decide to go forward with store purchase, you certainly need to be a CLA member. We have great resources in terms of workshops, a clean show every 2 years, Wash, Dry, Fold conference every year, excellence conference every couple of years. Connect Live is kind of the local version of meet and greet for CLA members. So the membership is well worth every penny.
We appreciate that kind endorsement, particularly from our chair-elect. We should hope so, right? But as Neal said, his story began with him reaching out to us and us sitting down for lunch and learning about the business together 12 years ago. So we really love to build these long-term relationships. We want to help you in your journey. So I'll wrap it up there. Please join. I look for you to ping my calendar. Those of you that join, we'll have a one-on-one conversation. Yes, get out to these next couple of Connect Live meetings. Someone had asked about the cost. There is a nominal cost, $50 or $60, whatever, to cover the dinner. But don't let that stand in your way based on what you have to learn and gain.
And if you're in Chicago, come and see our store. We love to show people what we do.
WashTime on Fullerton. You heard it here first. So again, with that, thanks again, Neal. I really appreciate your support and friendship
and thank all of you
and generosity with our audience. Thank you so much. And then for the rest of you, thanks for joining us. We will follow up with a copy of this program and some follow-up information that can help you along the way. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Audio Jungle.